For my 30th, they sold me a dream. Just wait. My girlfriend smirked whenever I asked. It'll be unforgettable, she teased. Morning comes. Nothing. Phone cold. By noon, Instagram smacks me in the face. My family, my girlfriend, my friends. Howling karaoke at some neon bar. Caption. Best night ever. Low-key glad he bailed LOL. I didn't text. I didn't show. I let the silence do the talking. They say turning 30 is a milestone. But for me, it was the day I learned my own family, and the woman I loved, had conspired to make me invisible. And that was just the beginning of how they tried to erase me from my own life. Look, if you'd asked me just a few months ago to describe my family, I'd probably have said we were close but complicated. I'm Alex, by the way, and for most of my life I've been the glue. The middle kid, the one who remembers every birthday, plans every holiday meal, and basically keeps the family calendar running. It was my whole identity, this reliable, steady, low-maintenance guy. So, when my 30th birthday started to loom, yeah, I got excited. 30 feels like a big deal, right? A real milestone. And for the first time, it felt like they all agreed. My mom started dropping hints weeks beforehand. Just wait until you see what we've planned. Then my sister, Chloe, sent me a winky-face text, saying, clear your calendar. We're going all out. And my girlfriend, Maya, she was the biggest tease. Every time I asked, she'd just smirk, lean in, and whisper, it's going to be unforgettable. That kind of hype, man, it gets to you. I'm not usually one to expect much, but hearing them build it up like that, it made me feel seen. Like, maybe they finally recognized all the years I'd spent taking care of them and were ready to make me feel truly special for once. The night before, I could barely sleep. My mind raced with possibilities. A surprise dinner with my closest friends? That fancy rooftop bar I'd mentioned wanting to try? Whatever it was, they made it sound like a memory you'd tell your future kids about. I woke up early the next morning, practically buzzing. Half expected a text from Maya. Don't eat breakfast. We're on our way. But nothing. By 10 a.m., still nothing. Noon rolled around, and I thought, okay, maybe it's just part of the grand surprise. Keep me in suspense until they sweep in. To distract myself, I scrolled through Instagram, and that's when I saw it. My entire feed. Flooded. Stories from my mom, my dad, my sister Chloe, my brother, even Maya, and two of my best friends, all tagged in videos. They were at a karaoke bar, singing, laughing, drinks in hand. Chloe's caption on one story, best party ever. Glad he didn't come, lol. My stomach dropped. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was from the night before, a casual get-together, but the timestamps were all from that morning. They'd been out since 9 a.m. Maya was front and center in one video, mic in hand, belting out some song she knew I absolutely hated, the kind she only ever sang to annoy me. My friends were cheering her on in the background. I just stared at my phone for a full minute, waiting for the punchline, waiting for a text saying, surprise, we're coming to get you now. But there was nothing, just more videos, more laughter. I didn't reply. I didn't show up. I just sat there on my couch, my apartment suddenly too quiet, too empty, like all the air had been sucked out of the room. By late afternoon, I just put my phone on silent. Whatever this was, some cruel joke, a surprise that meant excluding me, I didn't want to see any more of it. 2 days later, I woke up to 63 missed calls. Chloe, my mom, Maya, even my dad, who usually needs help sending a text. There was a new group chat, Birthday Disaster, with dozens of unread messages. And then, one text from Maya, sent at 3 a.m. That actually made me laugh out loud despite everything. Alex, please call me. You don't understand what happened. I stared at it, a weird mix of anger and curiosity bubbling up. Because here's the thing. If I didn't understand what happened, it wasn't because I wasn't paying attention. It was because nobody bothered to include me in the first place. And that, right there, was the moment something inside me shifted. I didn't answer Maya's text. Not right away, at least. Instead, I got up, made coffee, and just sat there on the couch, watching the steam curl up and disappear. Part of me wanted to just block them all and move on. But another part craved answers. If this was some kind of joke, it wasn't funny. If it wasn't a joke, then what the hell was it? By noon, the calls started again. Mom first, then Chloe, then Maya. Each one leaving voicemails that swung wildly from guilty to outright defensive. Alex, we need to talk. My mom's voice, sickly sweet, said, "You're overreacting. Call me back." Chloe's message was even worse. "If you wanted to come, you could have shown up. No one told you not to. You're just making this a bigger deal than it needs to be." I actually barked a laugh at that one. Nobody told me not to come. Nobody told me anything. Maya's voicemail was long and tearful. "Please pick up, Alex." I tried to stop them, but they said you wouldn't even want to do karaoke and ugh. "Just call me. Okay? We can talk about this in person." I ignored them all for the rest of the day. But by the next morning, my curiosity finally got the better of me. I called Maya first. She answered on the first ring. "Oh, thank God," she breathed. "Can I come over?" "Why?" I asked flatly. "Because this isn't something we can talk about over the phone." I hesitated, then told her to come. When she showed up, she looked like she hadn't slept. Hair a mess, makeup smudged. She stood in the doorway, holding a coffee for me like a peace offering. "Start talking," I said, not reaching for the cup. Maya sank onto my couch, burying her face in her hands. "It wasn't supposed to be like that," she mumbled. "Your mom and Chloe, they wanted to do something spontaneous and fun. I told them you'd hate karaoke, but Chloe said you always ruin the mood with your boring birthday dinners. So this year they wanted to do something just for them." I just blinked. "Just for them? For my birthday?" Maya winced. "Yeah. They said you'd probably find a reason not to show up anyway. So they decided to just start without you." My stomach twisted. "So you just went along with it?" She flinched at my tone. "I tried to call you that morning, but Chloe said it would ruin the vibe. And then once we were there, they kept saying you'd get mad if we called. So you didn't call," I finished for her. Maya looked down at her hands. "I'm sorry." The apology should have felt like something. Instead, it felt hollow. Because she wasn't sorry she went. She was sorry she got caught in the fallout. "I need some space," I said finally. Her head shot up. "Alex, don't do this. It was just a party." "It was my birthday," I snapped, louder than I meant to. "My 30th birthday. And you let them turn it into some joke at my expense." Her eyes welled up, but I didn't feel guilty. Not even a little. After Maya left, I just sat there, simmering. By the weekend, I couldn't stand it anymore. I drove to my parents' house, rehearsing every word in my head. My mom answered the door, a fake smile plastered on her face, like nothing had happened. "Alex, finally, we were starting to think you were holding a grudge." "I am holding a grudge," I said, stepping past her into the living room. My dad was on the couch, and Chloe was perched next to him, scrolling through her phone, a smirk playing on her lips. "Alex," Dad said, using that tone that's supposed to sound patient but just comes off as dismissive. "You need to let this go. We didn't mean to hurt your feelings. You threw a party without me." Chloe rolled her eyes. "You make it sound so dramatic. We figured you'd rather stay home than go to karaoke. You hate that stuff. That's not your call to make." I shot back. "Well, maybe if you actually showed up to family stuff more often, we'd know what to plan for you," Chloe said, a little smirk, like she'd just scored a point. I just stared at her, stunned. "I'm the only one who shows up to family stuff," I said slowly, my voice low. "Who do you think organized Dad's retirement dinner? Or paid for the cabin at Christmas when your card accidentally declined? Or stayed up all night baking a cake for Mom's last birthday because the bakery messed up the order?" Chloe flushed but didn't say anything. My mom sighed dramatically. "Alex, no one is saying you don't do things for us. But you take everything so personally. This was supposed to be lighthearted. You could have just come and joined us." She literally wrote, "Glad he didn't come, lol," I said, my voice rising. Mom waved a dismissive hand. Chloe was joking. Chloe grinned. It was funny, and that was it. Something in me just went quiet. I left without another word, drove home, and didn't pick up my phone for days. That's when things got truly ugly. I heard through a mutual friend that Chloe had been telling everyone I threw a tantrum over the party, called me too sensitive, and said I made everything about myself. And my mom? Apparently, she was defending Chloe, saying, Alex has always been a little dramatic. The real kicker? Maya started hanging out with them without telling me. I'd see her tagged in Instagram posts, brunch with Chloe, wine night with my mom, laughing like nothing had happened. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I just watched, waited, and let the anger settle deep in my chest like wet cement. Then, about a week later, a text from my mom. Family dinner on Sunday. Don't be late this time. No apology. No acknowledgement. Just an expectation that I'd show up, as always. I stared at it for a long, long time, feeling that shift inside me again. Bigger this time, heavier. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty at the thought of not going. In fact, I started wondering, what if I didn't just skip dinner? What if I stopped being the reliable one altogether? I didn't go. I didn't even text to say I wasn't coming. Instead, I spent the evening on my balcony with a beer, listening to the city noise, wondering when exactly I'd stopped being part of my own family. Around 9 p.m., my phone lit up. Chloe. I let it go to voicemail. Then Maya. Then Mom. I didn't answer any of them. When I finally checked my messages, there was one from Maya that made my jaw clench. If you're going to act like this, maybe we need a break. I can't keep being caught between you and your family. Caught between us? She'd been on their side since that damn karaoke bar. I didn't reply. The very next day, I found out why they'd been so desperate for me to show up. I was at work, half-heartedly answering emails, when my cousin, Leo, called. We don't talk often, so it caught me off guard. Hey man, he said cautiously. Listen, I don't know if you've heard yet, but your parents made a pretty big announcement last night. I frowned. What kind of announcement? He hesitated. They said they're redoing their will. They're leaving the lake house to Chloe. I sat up straighter, my blood running cold. What? I didn't know. Leo sounded surprised. You didn't know? No, I didn't know. I snapped. They didn't say anything to me. Leo whistled softly. Yeah, they made a whole speech about it. Said Chloe deserves it. Because she's the only one who still values family traditions. People clapped. It was awkward. My chest felt tight. The lake house wasn't just some piece of property. It was ours. It was where we'd spent every summer growing up. Where Dad taught me to fish. Where I scraped my knee so badly Mom had to carry me back to the cabin. Where we had bonfires and sang badly out of tune under the stars. It was ours. All of ours. I left work early and drove straight to my parents' house. Mom was in the kitchen, humming to herself like nothing was wrong. Alex, she said, genuinely surprised. You should have been here last night. Why didn't you tell me you were leaving the lake house to Chloe? I cut in, not even a greeting. She blinked. Oh, you heard about that? Yes, I heard about that. I snapped. Mom sighed, like I was being unreasonable. Alex, you've made it clear you don't even like going up there anymore. I missed 1/4 of July because I was working a double shift, I retorted. And suddenly I don't care about the lake house? Dad came in from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag. Alex, this isn't about you. Chloe is the one who's been keeping the traditions alive, organizing trips, bringing everyone together. I stared at him. You mean posting Instagram stories about it? Just then, Chloe chose that moment to walk in, holding an iced coffee. Oh, good. You heard? She said, a smug smile spreading across her face. Honestly, I'm glad. Now we can skip the awkward conversation. I turned to her, incredulous. You knew how much that place meant to me. Chloe shrugged. You never even go there anymore. And I'm the one who actually uses it. Mom and Dad want to know it's going to someone who will take care of it. Take care of it? I repeated, my voice dripping with disbelief. You threw a party there last summer that ended with a broken window and beer bottles in the lake. That was one time, she said breezily. Besides, I already have plans to renovate. It needs a modern touch. My stomach turned. She wasn't just taking it. She was going to gut it. Mom stepped in, her tone suddenly sharp. Alex, don't start a fight over this. It's already decided. We're not going to sit here and make Chloe feel guilty for being the only one who shows up. I laughed bitterly. Of course, it's already decided. Why include me in the conversation when you can just tell me after the fact? Dad's jaw tightened. We didn't tell you because we knew you'd make a scene. I stared at them, feeling like the ground had shifted under me. You didn't tell me because you knew I'd care, and you didn't want to deal with it. Nobody said anything. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. When I got home, Maya was sitting on my front steps. Alex, she said softly as I walked up, can we talk? I didn't answer. I just unlocked the door and let her follow me in. She stood in the middle of my living room, twisting her hands. I talked to your mom, she said finally. She told me about the lake house, and she asked me to tell you that. You're overreacting. I froze. She asked you to tell me that? Maya nodded nervously. She's just worried about you, Alex. This is tearing the family apart. I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. This isn't tearing the family apart. They already did that. I'm just finally noticing. Maya flinched but didn't leave. Instead, she took a deep breath. Alex, maybe this is a good time to think about what you actually want. You've always said you feel like the outsider. Maybe stepping back would be healthier for you. I just stared at her. You mean, step back from my own family so they can keep freezing me out? Her silence told me everything. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the lake house, about the way Chloe had smiled like she'd won something, about Mom telling me not to make her feel guilty. And somewhere between 2 and 3 in the morning, it hit me. They didn't just forget about me on my birthday. They'd been forgetting about me for years. I thought about all the times I'd gone out of my way for them, all the sacrifices I'd made, all the money I'd quietly spent to keep things running smoothly. And for what? By the time the sun came up, I'd made a decision. I wasn't just going to step back. I was going to make them see exactly what it felt like to be left out. And this time, there would be no going back. The morning after that sleepless night, I felt hollowed out. My apartment was quiet, but not peaceful. It felt empty in a way that made my chest ache. For the first time in years, I didn't have any family plans coming up to distract me. No Sunday dinner to prep for. No holiday menu to plan. No last-minute group chat asking if I could pick up the cake. It should have felt freeing. Instead, it felt like staring at the edge of a cliff, realizing there's nothing holding you back from falling. I didn't answer Maya's texts that day, or the day after. At first, she called nonstop. Then she sent paragraphs of explanations. Then single-line check-ins. Then nothing. By the end of the week, I saw her tagged in another brunch photo with Chloe. She was smiling, like nothing had happened. That was the moment I realized she wasn't coming back. I took the picture off my nightstand, the one of us at the cabin 2 summers ago. Her on the dock with her feet in the water, laughing while I grilled hot dogs, and put it in a drawer. The drawer stayed open for a long time, like I wasn't sure if I was ready to close it. Eventually, I shut it, and I left the room. At work, I threw myself into projects, desperate to avoid thinking. My coworkers noticed I was quieter than usual. Sarah, one of them, asked if I was okay. I almost said no, but stopped myself. What could I even tell her? That my family had erased me from my own life, and my girlfriend had joined them? I started eating lunch alone in my car. It was easier that way. But the thing about being the reliable one for so long is that people don't notice when you're slipping until something really falls apart. A few weeks later, my mom called, right in the middle of the day. Alex, the dryer stopped working again, she said. No preamble. When can you come look at it? I stared out the office window, gripping my phone tighter. I can't, I said flatly. There was a pause. What do you mean you can't? I mean I'm busy, I replied. Call a repairman. Another pause. Alex, that'll cost money. Your father's busy this week, and Chloe doesn't know how to fix it. Not my problem, I said, and hung up before she could respond. My hands were shaking afterwards. Not from anger, though. From something sharper, colder. Felt good. That weekend, I didn't go to the lake house when Chloe posted in the group chat about a spontaneous family getaway. I didn't even reply. An hour later, Dad called. Alex, what's going on with you? Nothing, I said. You've been avoiding us. You've been avoiding me for years. I shot back. I'm just finally matching your energy. He tried to guilt-trip me, saying things like, family is all we have, and you'll regret this one day. But all I felt was this quiet clarity, like someone had taken earplugs out of my ears and I could finally hear myself think. I didn't show up. That was the first weekend I'd spent entirely on my own in years. I ordered takeout, cleaned my apartment, reorganized my closet, and sat on the couch listening to music until late. I kept waiting for that crushing loneliness to hit again. But instead, there was this strange, growing calm. A week later, Chloe posted photos from the lake house, smiling selfies, fancy cheese boards, captions about family time with heart emojis. Underneath, people commented things like, "Where's Alex?" and "Missing one sibling." Chloe replied to one, "He's too busy being dramatic, lol." I didn't comment. I didn't DM her. I just screenshotted it and saved it to a folder on my phone. I started saving a lot of things. Screenshots, receipts, texts. Not for revenge. Not yet. Just to remind myself I wasn't imagining this. Meanwhile, the family group chat kept buzzing. When I didn't respond, Mom sent guilt-ridden messages like, "We love you, Alex. Please don't shut us out." Then, 2 minutes later, Chloe would write something snide about how I was acting like a martyr. Maya finally texted me one night, "I'm moving my stuff out tomorrow. I think this break is permanent." No apology, no conversation, just that. I stared at it for a long time. Then I wrote back, "Okay." She showed up the next day while I was at work, grabbed her things, and left my spare key on the counter. That night, I sat in my now half-empty apartment, looked around, and realized I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt relieved, because for the first time in years, I had no one to take care of but myself. And as that thought settled, another one crept in. Quiet at first, then louder. If they wanted to treat me like I didn't matter, maybe I should show them what it actually looks like when I'm not there. Over the next month, I stopped doing things they'd never even realized I did. I canceled the yearly cabin rental I'd already put a deposit on for Christmas. I told the family accountant to take my name off the shared emergency fund I'd been contributing to since college. I stopped sending reminders about birthdays and paying for last-minute gifts from all of us. The cracks started showing fast. Mom called in a panic when she found out about the cabin. "Alex, everyone was counting on that. You mean you were counting on me to pay for it?" I said. There was a stunned silence on the line. Then Chloe started blowing up my phone, accusing me of ruining Christmas. I didn't respond. At work, I stayed late more often, picking up extra projects. I started saving more money, little by little, like I was building a wall between myself and them. And somewhere along the way, the pain started turning into something sharper. Focus. I began thinking not just about what they'd taken from me my birthday, the lake house, my sense of belonging, but what they still stood to lose. And that's when the idea started forming. Slow at first, gentle. But each time Chloe posted something smug, each time Mom left a voicemail dripping with guilt, each time Dad tried to lecture me about being the bigger person, that idea grew stronger, more defined. Because I realized something. They didn't just take the lake house away from me. They didn't just forget my birthday. They'd built their entire dynamic around me, quietly holding everything together. And if I was gone, truly gone, everything would start to collapse. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to be there to watch it happen. When you've been in survival mode for years, learning to live for yourself feels almost foreign. For the first few weeks after I started cutting back on family obligations, I kept expecting someone to text me, "Okay, joke's over, come back now." But they didn't. And that silence, it gave me room to breathe. I started spending my weekends differently, trying new restaurants, meeting coworkers for trivia night, even going on a hiking trip I'd been putting off for years because there was always family stuff to take care of. For the first time, I really noticed how much of my life had been shaped around accommodating other people's needs. My calendar was almost suspiciously empty, and instead of feeling guilty about it, I started filling it with things I actually wanted to do. I signed up for a woodworking class I'd been eyeing for months. By the end of the first session, I was already sketching out plans for a coffee table for my living room. I also started focusing more seriously on my job. I'd been a project coordinator for 3 years, content to fly under the radar, just keeping the trains running on time. But now that I wasn't spending my nights and weekends smoothing over family drama, I had the bandwidth to take on more responsibility. When my boss mentioned a high-profile project coming down the pipeline, the kind of thing that could make or break a career, I volunteered before anyone else could. "Are you sure you want this, Alex?" my boss asked, eyebrows raised. "It's a lot of work." I nodded. "I'm sure." That project turned out to be exactly what I needed. Stressful, yes, but I was good at it. Really good. I stayed late when I had to, coordinated between 3 different departments, kept everyone on schedule. For the first time in months, I felt truly capable. 2 months later, I was sitting across from my boss in a corner office as she told me I was being promoted. "You've proven yourself," she said with a rare smile. "Frankly, I don't know how we managed before you took over this project." The promotion came with a raise, a big one. I celebrated by buying myself something small but meaningful, a leather-bound journal. Not to write about my feelings, I wasn't quite there yet, but to start jotting down ideas. And in that journal, a new section slowly started taking shape. One labeled simply, Lake House. Meanwhile, the family group chat was slowly unraveling without me. I knew because I muted it but didn't leave. Every now and then, I'd scroll through, watching the chaos unfold. Chloe tried to organize another family weekend at the lake house and got mad when no one responded for 2 days. Dad complained about having to fix the leaky roof by himself. Mom started asking who was bringing what food for Easter and got silence in return. Turns out, when you spend years training one person to hold the family together, nobody else knows how to do it when that person steps back. I didn't gloat, not outwardly, but there was something deeply satisfying about seeing the cracks get wider. Then came the summer barbecue, the first one I didn't organize. Usually, I'd be the one sending out invites, arranging food, setting up the grill, making sure we had enough chairs. This time, I stayed home. At around 7 p.m., my cousin Leo texted me a blurry photo of Dad standing over a smoking grill, looking stressed, while Chloe sat on the deck, scrolling through her phone. "Wish you were here, man," Leo wrote. "This is a disaster." I smiled and put my phone down. That night, I wrote another note in my journal. "They're starting to notice." As the months passed, my apartment started to feel less like a temporary space and more like a home. The coffee table I built sat proudly in the center of my living room. I upgraded my couch, bought art for the walls. For once, everything around me felt like mine. Not something I'd inherited. Not something that came with strings attached. Just mine. And with every new thing I built for myself, every paycheck I put toward my savings instead of bailing someone out of a financial mess, I felt stronger. When Christmas rolled around, the group chat was unusually quiet. Normally, I'd be fielding 20 messages an hour about who was bringing dessert or who had to pick up Grandpa from the airport. This time, Chloe sent a single message 3 days before Christmas. "Whose house are we using?" Nobody responded for half a day. Then Mom wrote, "Alex usually books the cabin." "Alex isn't talking to us," Chloe wrote back. And then there was silence. I spent that Christmas at a cabin, but not the usual one. I rented a different one for myself, just outside town. I built a fire, made hot cocoa, and read a book by the window while snow fell outside. I didn't post a single picture. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving. And that journal, the one labeled Lake House, the pages were filling up fast. Plans, ideas, notes about property laws, conversations I'd overheard when I was younger about how Dad structured the deed. questions I could ask the right people if I chose to. Because the truth was, I'd stopped wanting them to apologize. At this point, I wanted something else entirely. Something bigger. Something that would make them sit up, pay attention, and finally understand what it meant to treat me like I didn't matter. And the more I thought about it, the clearer the path became. It wasn't just about getting even anymore. It was about making sure they could never do this to me or anyone else again. The day everything clicked started like any other. I was sitting in my office, sipping coffee, flipping through some paperwork, when my boss stopped by my desk. "Alex, you're good with logistics, right? I need someone to handle the vendor contracts for next quarter." I agreed, thinking it would just be another line on my growing resume. But that project turned into something far more valuable. It put me in touch with a real estate lawyer our company used for property leases. After a few meetings, I started casually asking questions. Nothing specific at first, just general things about deeds, title transfers, and inheritance law. He was happy to talk shop. "It's amazing how many families get torn apart over property," he said, over coffee one afternoon. "You'd be surprised how often people fight over lake houses." That made me smile faintly. Hypothetically, I asked, what happens if a family decides to change the inheritance but doesn't file the paperwork properly? "Well," he said, leaning back, "hypothetically, that's where things get messy. If the deed isn't transferred yet, it's still legally part of the estate. Anyone with standing can contest the decision, assuming they can prove their interest." I filed that away like a precious jewel in my pocket. The next week, I stopped by the county records office during lunch. I told them I wanted to look up the deed for the property under my family's name. It wasn't hard. It's all public record. When I finally held the folder in my hands, my heart pounded. The lake house was still in both of my parents' names. No transfer had been filed. No trust documents. Nothing. Which meant Chloe didn't actually own anything yet. I walked out of that building with a copy of the deed and a very quiet, very dangerous smile. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my journal and started sketching out a timeline. Not just for me, but for them. Step 1. Gather information. Step 2. Secure leverage. Step 3. Wait for the right moment. It wasn't enough to just stop doing things for them. I wanted them to feel the full weight of what they'd done. The universe, apparently, was on my side. 2 weeks later, I got a call from Leo again. "Hey," he said, lowering his voice, like he always does when he's gossiping. "Just a heads up. Your parents are trying to put together a big 4th of July celebration this year. They want to invite the whole extended family. Word is they're going to use it to formally sign the transfer papers for the lake house." My pen froze mid-sentence. "Are you serious?" I asked. "Dead serious," Leo said. "Chloe's been bragging about it to everyone. She says she's already picked out new furniture." I thanked him and hung up, my mind racing. They were planning to make it official and public, which meant I had a very clear deadline. I spent the next month quietly working behind the scenes. I met with the real estate lawyer again, this time far more direct. I asked him about contesting a deed transfer if one sibling was excluded. He told me what paperwork I'd need, what evidence would be strongest, and most importantly, how to file things in advance to put a legal hold on the transfer until a dispute was resolved. "Hypothetically," he said with a grin, "you could stop the whole thing before it even gets signed." I grinned back. Hypothetically. Meanwhile, the family group chat was getting desperate. "Alex," Mom wrote one night, "we really need to talk before the 4th. It's important." Chloe chimed in 2 minutes later. "If you want to be included this time, you should probably show up." I didn't reply. Instead, I doubled down on my preparations. I quietly moved some money into a separate savings account, earmarked for legal fees. I met with an accountant to make sure I understood the tax implications of a contested estate. I even started looking into potential buyers for lakefront property. Not because I wanted to sell, but because I wanted to know the market value down to the dollar. The more I learned, the clearer the picture became. Chloe didn't just want the lake house because she loved it. She wanted it because it was valuable, prime real estate that she could flip or rent out for profit. And the more I thought about her smug little grin when she told me about her plans to renovate, the more determined I became to stop her. Around this time, something interesting started happening at work. My promotion had put me in charge of several new hires, and for the first time in my life, I had people looking to me for leadership. One afternoon, a junior project manager said, "Alex, I like how you run things. You're fair but firm." My last boss never listened to anyone. That comment stuck with me. Fair but firm. It made me realize I wasn't just getting stronger. I was becoming someone other people trusted, someone with influence. And that influence wasn't limited to work. A few weeks before the 4th, I got another call from Mom. This time her voice sounded less sweet, more anxious. "Alex, the roof at the lake house is leaking again. Your father and I were hoping you could come take a look before the party." "No," I said simply. "Alex, you didn't want my input when you decided who gets the house," I said, my voice calm but sharp. "You can figure out the roof without me." She was silent for a long time. "Your sister said you'd be difficult about this," she said finally. Then she was right. I hung up and felt that now familiar wave of satisfaction. Because this time I wasn't just saying no. I was saying no with purpose. By the time July rolled around, everything was in place. I had the legal paperwork drafted and ready to file the moment I chose. I had a folder of evidence, screenshots, texts, proof of my financial contributions over the years. I had an ally in Leo who quietly fed me updates about Chloe's plans. All that was left was to show up. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I actually wanted to. Because if they were going to make the 4th of July about Chloe, then I was going to make sure everyone walked away talking about me. The 4th of July came with blistering heat and a sky so blue it looked fake. I drove up to the lake house with the windows down, my legal paperwork tucked neatly in a folder on the passenger seat. I hadn't been back since the last family trip 2 summers ago. Pulling into the driveway felt strange, like stepping onto a stage I used to know by heart. The house looked the same, weathered siding, the old swing still creaking lazily from the oak tree out front. But I felt different. I parked, took a slow, deep breath, and walked up to the deck. Laughter spilled out from the backyard. Chloe's shrill laugh, my mom's softer one, the sound of music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. When I stepped into the yard, heads turned. "Oh my gosh!" Mom cried, genuinely surprised. "Alex, you came." "Of course I did," I said evenly. Chloe sauntered over, a drink in hand. "Well, look who finally decided to join the family. Did you come to be civil or just to glower at everyone from a corner?" I smiled. A small, calm, dangerous smile. "I came to watch the show." She rolled her eyes and walked off. I spent the next hour mingling, just enough to avoid suspicion. I talked to a few cousins, grabbed a plate of food, even laughed at one of Uncle Ben's bad jokes. But inside I was just waiting. Finally, after everyone had eaten, Mom stood up and clinked her glass. "Everyone," she beamed, "thank you for being here to celebrate another 4th of July together. We have some exciting news to share today. We're officially signing the papers to transfer the lake house to Chloe." There was polite applause, a few cheers. Chloe practically glowed as she stood next to Dad, who held a folder with the documents. I stayed seated, calm. Mom gestured for quiet. Chloe has been the one keeping this place alive these last few years, so it only made sense to make it hers. "We know Alex supports this decision, even if he's been busy lately." "Actually," I said, standing slowly, "Alex does not support this decision." The yard went quiet. Chloe laughed nervously. "Alex, sit down. Don't make a scene." "I'm not making a scene," I said evenly. "I'm just letting everyone here know that this transfer isn't happening. Not today." Dad's face darkened. "Alex, this isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I said, pulling the folder from under my arm. "Because I've already filed a petition with the county clerk to put a hold on any transfer of this property until a legal review can be completed." There was a stunned silence. "You did what?" Chloe snapped. I opened the folder and held up the stamped paperwork. "You heard me. This house isn't yours. It's not anybody's. Not yet. And if you try to sign those papers today, they'll be legally invalid." Mom looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon. Alex, why would you do this? This is supposed to be a happy day. Because this isn't just about a house, I said, my voice calm, but carrying across the yard. This is about years of being left out, ignored, and treated like I don't matter. You didn't just plan a party without me. You've been planning my absence for a long time. And I'm done pretending that's okay. I set the folder on the table where everyone could see it. This isn't a fight. This is me standing up for myself. You wanted to take something from me that we all shared, without even having the decency to talk to me first. That ends today. Chloe's face was red. You can't just stop this because you're mad. You don't even care about this place. I met her glare. If I didn't care, I wouldn't be here. And I wouldn't have spent the last 2 months preparing to make sure this place stays exactly what it's supposed to be. A family lake house. Not your personal vacation rental. Not your Instagram backdrop. There was a murmur from the crowd. A few cousins nodded. Mom tried to regain control. Alex, you're overreacting. This is ridiculous. You can't hold the whole family hostage because you're upset. I stepped closer, lowering my voice just enough that only she and Dad could hear. I have receipts of every dollar I've ever spent to maintain this house. Repairs, groceries, deposits for trips you never reimbursed me for. If you want to play fair, I'll take my share of the property value and walk away. If you want to push me out, I'll see you in court. Dad's jaw tightened. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Chloe sputtered. You wouldn't. I cut her off. Try me. The silence that followed was delicious. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. We'll revisit this discussion. Good, I said simply, and sat back down like nothing had happened. For the rest of the afternoon, the mood was tense. The Bluetooth speaker played on, but no one was singing anymore. Chloe sulked on the deck, shooting me daggers. Mom kept whispering to Dad, who looked like he had a headache. I stayed until sunset, then packed up and left without another word. On the drive home, I felt lighter than I had in months. Not because the fight was over, it wasn't, but because for the first time I wasn't on the defensive. I was in control, and judging by the flurry of texts that started blowing up my phone before I even made it back to the city, they knew it too. By the time I got home from the lake house that night, my phone was practically buzzing off the table. I didn't answer any of the calls, but I read every text. Mom's first message was almost pleading. Alex, you didn't have to do that in front of everyone. We could have talked privately. Then Chloe came in, all caps. You humiliated me. I hope you're happy. Everyone thinks I'm greedy now. Dad's message was short and sharp. This was childish. Call me tomorrow. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I poured myself a drink, sat down on the couch, and let the quiet sink in. For the first time, I wasn't the one scrambling to fix everything. Over the next few days, the fallout spread like wildfire. Leo texted me again. Bro, people haven't stopped talking about what you said. Half the cousins are on your side. Uncle Ben told Chloe she should be ashamed. Apparently, Chloe had spent the entire next morning calling relatives, trying to spin the story. She told them I was being dramatic and holding the house hostage. But since I'd calmly laid out the facts in front of everyone, including my years of financial contributions, her version didn't hold up. Even people who usually stayed out of family drama started weighing in. My aunt sent me a long email thanking me for speaking up, saying she always thought it was unfair how much I did for everyone. Meanwhile, Chloe's perfect image was starting to crack. She'd already started ordering new furniture for the lake house, bragging about it online, and when she had to cancel the orders, people noticed. Her friends started commenting things like, "Wait, I thought you were getting the house?" She posted a passive-aggressive story. Some people can't stand to see others happy. I didn't reply. Then, 2 weeks later, I got the call that changed everything. It was Dad. His voice was quieter than usual. None of the sharpness from before. "Alex," he said, "your mother and I have been talking. We've decided not to transfer the lake house right now. It's caused too much tension." I stayed silent, waiting. He continued, We'd like to revisit how we're dividing things in the future. You were right. We should have involved you in the discussion. You've done a lot for this family. For a moment, I didn't say anything. Then I said, I appreciate that. Mom got on the line then. Alex, I'm sorry, she said quietly. Not just for the house, for the party, for everything. I closed my eyes, letting the words settle. It wasn't perfect. It didn't erase what happened. But it was the first time they'd ever actually said sorry. I agreed to meet them for dinner, just the three of us. When I arrived, they looked smaller somehow, like the fight had taken something out of them. We talked, really talked, for the first time in years. They admitted they'd taken me for granted, relied on me too much. I didn't rush to reassure them. I let the silence stretch until they had to sit with it. And then I told them calmly that I'd still be filing paperwork to make sure my share of the lake house was legally protected. Not to punish them, just to make sure this never happened again. Dad nodded slowly. That's fair. Chloe, of course, was another story. She cornered me after dinner a few nights later outside my apartment. You ruined everything, she hissed. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this has been for me? Yes, I said simply. That was the point. She blinked, stunned. You think this makes you the bigger person? No, I said, meeting her glare. It makes me the person who finally stopped letting you walk all over me. She stormed off without another word. The next time I saw her was at Thanksgiving, months later. She barely made eye contact. Mom and Dad were on their best behavior, and for the first time in years, the dinner felt balanced. Nobody asked me to carve the turkey. Nobody asked me to run out for forgotten cranberry sauce. Nobody asked me to stay late to clean up. They managed it themselves. As I got up to leave, Dad stopped me at the door. You know, he said quietly, things are different now, but maybe different is what we needed. I nodded. Walking to my car, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. Things weren't back to normal. They never would be, but they were better, because now they knew where I stood. And as I started the engine, I glanced at the folder still in my glove compartment, the one with the deed copy and the legal hold paperwork, and smiled. Because the next time someone thought about leaving me out of the picture, they'd remember this summer, and they'd think twice.